I've had a lot of people coming to me asking whether they should buy X camera for $400, X capture card for $300, or X camera for $700, all way more than I would ever recommend, and I've been kind of baffled by that. And I've also received a lot of comments asking why the heck nothing I recommended for X price or X price actually costs that much. And it comes down to COVID, the current human malware situation, basically causing everyone to work from home and thus buy up all the streaming and capture related gear, and shortages in terms of shipment going to distributors and from China, things like that. Prices have gone up, and today's video is here to talk to you about not overpaying for these things because I think it's a little bit ridiculous. This video is brought to you by Nerd or Die. You knew there was going to be an ad in this video. I just had a baby. I got bills to pay. Nerd or Die is having a beat the clock sale at the moment where you can get 25% off some amazing stream layouts. I even used the Nerd or Die Synthwave chat box for my streams because I really just had a hard time getting a chat box put together. They've got 15% off store-wide, 25% off specific packages, and they even have specific stream overlays for as low as $2. Head over to EposVox.gg/nerdordie to learn more and sign up today. Unless you are doing something that is creating an essential form of media, a TV show or something, there is virtually no situation in which I would consider it worth it to be paying more than the prices that I have recommended in a particular video for a specific product. And a lot of people are doing that. If you look at eBay right now for Elgato cam links, there's people paying $400 for this capture card, which just sounds absurd. But there's also people paying like $400 for cameras that previously cost $150. The whole supply and demand market thing going on here. So I don't want you to overpay. So I want to make some alternative suggestions, which may all spike up once people start buying them, that might save you a little bit of money here. Currently, you're looking at, I realize it doesn't look great, but if you're just looking to get started, it's probably fine. This is a $36 GoPro knockoff from DB Power. It records internally at 4K and some other stuff, but really it's a 1080p camera. It outputs 1080i 60 over HDMI or 1080p 30 over USB 2 right here. So you don't need a capture card. You don't need to buy a capture card. You can spend $36 and you have a camera to Skype with. And you don't even really need lighting for this because this is with all my lighting off, because over USB you don't actually get manual exposure settings. So when I turn my light on, I look like this. For $36, you're getting what you pay for. But if you want something, it's here. You have an option. It's a camera. It's $36. You can use it for an extra camera angle, worst case scenario. But let me show you something else. Now, if you're looking for a better option and one that's more friendly to actual lighting setups, you can get an actual GoPro. This is the GoPro Hero 6 Black. I have it connected via micro HDMI to a capture card, controlling it using the app on my phone, which has been really frustrating to get working, but once it does work, it works. You can get these fairly cheap. I got this one for $125 on OfferUp. Granted, this was before human malware situation, but even checking now, people are ignoring these. People are picking up the mirrorless and the DSLR cameras, but the GoPros on eBay and Amazon are $100, $125. You can get a Hero 5 Black for brand new on Amazon for $150. So instead of overpaying for a A5100, you can get this for a reasonable price. And these are the results you're getting. It's still a fairly wide angle field of view, but if you're doing like a group call or a group show or something like that, that's fine. We're outputting 1080p 30 FPS at the moment, I believe. Yeah, 1080p 30 FPS here. I get manual settings over ISO, exposure, color settings. I can't get white balance exactly right because they only have preset values, but I am using a color chart to color grade in post. And actually, there might be an auto white balance mode I can set up here. White balance. Put it on auto. Auto actually looks fairly natural. We don't have to do anything. So you'll see the first part was kind of pinkish. This one mostly looks fine. This is on GoPro colors. I might tweak contrast a little bit in post, but overall, it looks pretty solid for a 1080p feed over HDMI. Granted, you still do need a capture card in order to capture that footage, but this is mostly fine. And it even has image stabilization built in. So you can get a few of these, mount them anywhere you want because they're super light, control them through your phone, and you have fairly decent, it's not production. You're not going to get blown out depth of field. It's got fixed focus, but you're going to get a usable camera for $150, which is way better than some of the other options. Now, speaking of other options, my community manager, iSorb, actually posted a video about following up on my Sony cameras discussion because he's been using for a couple years now a Sony a5000 that you can still pick up used fairly cheap. And by the way, with any of these cameras, if you're using them only as a streaming camera, you can pick them up fairly cheap if you get ones that have broken or damaged screens, because you don't really need the screen. You're outputting it to HDMI. So he has an A5000 he picked up really cheap, and the only issue is it doesn't have clean HDMI, but you can get it so that only like 10 pixels on the bottom are taken up for HDMI overlays, and you just crop that off in your live stream and you're good to go. So for a gaming face cam, or for most streaming purposes, even teaching and things like that, if you're just adding it to OBS or XSplit, you can crop that off and get a reasonable result. Also, people are looking at Sony and some of these other options, but there is the original Canon M200, which released late last year. I showcased it at CES because they were finally advertising it as a camera that could be used for streaming purposes with clean HDMI. If someone's willing to pay $400 for a Sony A5100 that's used, you might as well get a new Canon M200 with lens for $400 or $450. Just something worth considering. So I've had a lot of questions about using GoPros or GoPro knockoffs for webcam alternatives. And while obviously I haven't tested every single one, and there's diamonds in the rough with everything, I have tested quite a few of these knockoff GoPros, and the clip you saw at the beginning of this video was mostly an example of how they look. It's not great. They're not a good experience overall. They're only great for like super cheap corner cams or something where you don't care about quality, you just want an extra angle. Whereas an actual GoPro, you can get fairly competent results from. The most commonly forgot about camera type or webcams is literally the video camera, the camcorder. These things are designed for this purpose. They're designed to run off of wall power. They come with everything you need for that. They're designed to provide clean HDMI out for streaming to a capture card, for recording video, unlimited. It works. They're also really cheap if you get the, if you're not getting the most high-end 4K ones. This one is the Canon Vixia HFR 500. It's a few years old at this point. I used to have two of them. I used them a lot for our vlogs when we were doing vlog videos and things like that. And it's a straightforward camcorder. They have newer models. It's available on eBay for like $100. $100. You get 1080p, 60 FPS video. You get continuous autofocus. You get clean HDMI out. You get wall power. And you get a camcorder in case you want to go film other things. It's a pretty solid option. And there's plenty of camcorder options out there. Literally just search eBay or Amazon or wherever you're looking for camcorder. So this is going to be the shakiest example ever because I'm hand holding my iPad Pro. But this is what the iPad Pro using the NDI HX camera app looks like running into OBS. I'm going to flip it around now. And this is the same thing, but with the NDI, or with the front facing camera. It's a little blown out here. It wasn't in my first example, but my audio got messed up. My light's a little too bright for this. There we go. So the people over at NewTek, I have a whole video explaining what NDI is if you haven't heard of it already, but they have released 2 NDI apps for iOS for completely free. Used to they cost about $20. They decided that wasn't worth it. They made them both free. One is NDI HX Camera, which uses the cameras from your iOS device, as you can see here. The other is NDI HX Capture, which is just a screen recording option. But here you have using an iPad as a webcam using NDI. There will be a delay. You'll have to compensate for that. But overall, it looks fine. I might recommend, I'm going to experiment more before I do a full video on it with using an Ethernet adapter, because the frame rate that I get on the computer's end is a little low. And lastly, this is using my Google Pixel 2 XL as a webcam fed into OBS using the IP webcam app, and then I'm using ADB to connect to it through USB to send the signal over USB. There's a app I will have linked in the description below that my mod developed that will just forward the port that IP webcam is using over USB so that you're not using your Wi-Fi, which helps a little bit with quality. However, there is a very big delay when using it as a VLC source. The browser preview in your actual web browser seems fairly, low latency comparatively, but recording here through a VLC source has like a whole half a second or so delay on top. But you can see here the quality is quite nice. It's a little overexposed. The manual control settings in the IP webcam web page aren't working for me at the moment, but overall this quality beats out, this is using the rear webcam at 1080p, beats out a C920 by a long shot. So it's here, but this is why I don't really recommend the mobile streaming app options very much, because there's just so many issues with the latency and the quality and things like that. Now, in terms of capture cards, this market is fairly wrecked at the moment as well, but there are options that are available. Now, this one right here, this Puteltal 4K HDMI, $90 is a little expensive, and it may not get to you very soon. This is fairly slow shipping, but if you're just looking for one in general, this is the same box, even if it's got a different name on it, that my buddy Voltar has already verified works with the OSSC, open source scan converter, and supports a lot of weird formats and seems to work pretty well for him. So this is one such option. Just keep in mind it may take a while to get to you, but you do have some that are relatively Amazon Prime here as well. This is the AGP Tech or MyPin, depending on how you see it, capture card. I have one of these in stock. I haven't done a full review of them yet, but only $120 for a basic 1080p 60 or 4K 30 capture card as well. Fairly standard USB 3. AVerMedia's Live Gamer HD2 is still available. $150, PCIe 1X, so it fits in most desktop towers. 1080p 60 capture and pass through. It also works as UVC, so it'll work with Skype and Zoom and all of that for your camera input as well. Great option here. And then there is also the Hauppauge HD PVR Pro 60, which has 4K pass-through, 1080p capture, even records the SD card if that's your kind of thing, or USB 3, has microphone inputs, all sorts of stuff, takes screenshots. This one's also about $150 you can get as well. So these are a little bit of the non-standard options, and pretty much all of these I will review at some point in time, but I feel confident just saying, hey, if you just need something and you don't want to pay $200 to $400 for what you wouldn't have had to before, this is a pretty solid option. This also mentions Zoom, Skype, and vMix support, so it is probably UVC as well. Oh yeah, UVC drivers. Yep. So this will work as a camera capture card too. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Literally 2 days after I recorded this, before I even started editing, my wife and I finally had our first kid. That whole thing I keep teasing, have been teasing for 9 months, it finally happened. We're still at the hospital with it, you know, off and on. Well, they're still at the hospital. I'm still at the hospital with them off and on. And so videos are going to be a little weird for a little bit, but I get this one out to you, so it's okay. But apparently I never filmed an intro for it, so whatever. Hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a little thrown together because of this situation. I could have put more polish on it, but I just needed to get it out. Hope you enjoyed. Just wanted to get some recommendations to you. And of course, literally the day after I recorded this one, the Canon EOS webcam utility came out, which allows you to use Canon DSLRs as webcams. And many of you have tested and actually gotten it working with older DSLRs that aren't on the compatibility list. And so just, I guess, at the moment I can't compile. I don't like compiling lists of that kind of thing if I can't validate it myself. So that's always a concern. But check the comment section for that, just to get a glance and see if someone's tested your camera, because I know some people have. Basically, my suggestion was to find the software download for the camera that's the closest to your camera. So like if you have a T3i, get the T6i download and whatever. And some people have sort of gotten it working with various limitations or compatibility or what have you. And of course there's SparkoCam for those DSLRs as well. But that opens the door for some cheaper Canon DSLRs on top of everything else. So you have a lot of options here. Just don't pay 3 times, 4 times the recommended price or the MSRP of something just because eBay scalpers are in full. Don't do it. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more tech education and stream guides. That is my cat Remy. They miss me very much since we've been at the hospital so much. And I'll see you next time. I have no idea if any of this recorded audio, to be honest. Say bye-bye!